Kick us off. Introduce us.
Good news is we're back. Episode 8 almost didn't happen. You know, it was kind of intense with just life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and the lack thereof. So this week, of course, we're going to get to pursuit of happiness. What is the good life? How to find the good life in a world, or at least a culture, that's obsessed with capitalism, financial success, personal achievements. How to find what is the good life? Let's strip that away. Let's strip that away and let's just go down to, like, if you were in a vacuum, what is it that would be the good life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to define today. But first of all, what do we have here? Oh my gosh.
Well, we're talking the good life today, and I've got to say I have put together maybe one of the most luxurious charcuterie boards
what is
around.
That? Is that
Should I run through it?
Yeah, please
run through it.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm just gonna give it a tip.
We've got some. Show the camera. We've got some Mediterranean pitted olives from ancient Greece.
Ancient. They've been around a while.
They've been fermenting. Aging.
I love that. The Greeks.
This is a truffle cheese.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Bro. Yep. You are nuts. Okay.
This is a timeless goat square.
Looks a lot like cheddar. Are you sure that's goat?
Yeah. It's been aging.
Because I'm looking at this, I'm like provolone and cheddar, but I'm into it.
Yeah, no. A lot of people. No, I understand. This is the Good Life charcuterie board. So these are only the finest.
Let me just smell the truffle.
Can you smell it?
Oh yeah.
You smell ancient Greece?
I smell like the body odor of Caesar himself. Maybe Marcus Aurelius.
We have lamb.
Whoa, that lamb is looking round.
This is a Wagyu cut.
I wish we could get a close-up of this, but there's nobody running the camera.
Try the lamb.
That's the Wagyu.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Whoa. Gamey.
Wagyu.
Gamey. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We have a King's Hawaiian roll.
Thinly
It's the fanciest bread that I can think of.
Thinly sliced.
King's Hawaiian. Toasted. And a Swiss, this is from the Swiss Alps. Harvested by a young boy.
A young boy harvested the cocoa plants in the Swiss Alps. Well,
all right. We're talking good life.
We're living the good life.
We're also drinking coconut water here.
Cheers.
Mango coconut water. Cheers to you. When you text me, I was at the grocery store, I will admit. Not that I got any of this. Most of this is from the Swiss Alps in ancient Greece. But I was at the grocery store when you texted me the topic earlier today.
Years ago I texted this to you.
Yeah. And I did, my immediate reaction was, let me get some coconuts. If we're going to talk about the good life, let's talk about, So it really would have been fun. They don't carry coconuts. I thought they would carry coconuts.
Man.
I've never bought them before, but I thought, it would be fun to drink out of the coconut.
Yeah, I can't believe they don't have them.
I know.
Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they're not as popular as I think, but they are, that's why the good life is so...
It's hard to get.
It's hard to get. That's exactly right. It would have been fun to watch us try to open up a coconut here on screen.
My dad, I remember, last week if you tune in, it was about proverbs, adages, maxims.
Yeah.
But my dad, one of my funnest memories is he bought coconuts at the store and then allowed us the opportunity to try and crack in. Impossible.
Really?
It's so hard to crack into a coconut.
For a young boy.
For anyone. He pulled out a power drill and drilled into that thing and then drained the juice. He's just like, and then poured the juice out and we drank it, and then I don't know how he busted it open, but it was different. It's great.
That's different. Well, if we revisit this topic, I will bring a drill. Some coconuts.
Well, I love that. The good life, right? You know what I'm saying? Like the good life. I should say, like, neither of us are making, as far as I know, millions of dollars, right?
Well, I haven't asked you about the ads that this podcast has been bringing in.
Oh, man. We want to... Today's podcast is sponsored.
Well, these are Coalition for the Homeless glasses. So sponsored by Coalition for the Homeless.
So listen, maybe there's millionaire lifestyles out there, and they're going to hear what we say today, and they're going to be like, "You provincial knaves! How dare you assume, presume, and consume about, who knows? I don't know. Maybe it is awesome to be a millionaire, but let's just pause for a moment and let's say, Joe, if I offered you $1 million today, but you had to never see your family again, let's say I offered you $1 million a year, okay? Every year that you stay away from your family, I will give you $1 million. Would you take my offer?
Absolutely not.
Man, and I believe that.
Absolutely not. That is, no question. That
pretty silly, right?
Yeah.
So obviously money is not all of it, right? Yeah. But if I also said like, hey, you're going to have a family, you're never going to have any money. That's a bad thing too. You know what I'm saying? So we obviously see that money's important, right? Sure. But it's not everything. You know, if I said you couldn't see your loved ones, that's it. So
make it $1 billion. It really wouldn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, a quadzillion. You know, a googillion. You know what I'm saying?
It would not matter.
Well, we have friends who just moved back to the neighborhood. They've been here forever, and they moved back. Alex and Savannah.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And when they first, as happens, I've done it. Gosh, I did it in New York. I did it in LA. You end up moving someplace and you don't have a job because you know where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you've lined up any work there. It just means you know where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
And so I was talking to Alex. He was like, "Oh yeah, we moved back." Listen, they are both gainfully employed at this point, but they had just moved back.
Okay. Cool.
And he was stressing, as we do. And I was like, "Bro, you know, there are jobs everywhere, but the community that you're meant to be in, that's very rare. You know, you can't move to just any city and find friends and co-patriots kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's pretty rare. Jobs are everywhere.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to get down to that. Good life. What are you thinking, man? What's rolling off your head?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Can we eat this while we're chit-chatting?
We can eat, yeah. I don't know how it affects the mic.
For those of you that are, I'm speaking sultrily into the microphone. For those of you that are joining us just sonically and not visually, I see before me a great spread of charcuterie.
Somebody loved
Ancient Greek olives, truffle. What kind of cheese?
I believe it was a timeless goat.
Somebody milked the teats of a timeless goat. And they made cheese from it. It's delicious. All right, so back to what we were talking about.
That was for Stephanie. That was for Stephanie.
Stephanie, I love you. And if you could see what I see right now, it'd be amazing. All right, go for it.
What's the question?
So anything rolling off your head when I say the good life? You know
what's the good life?
The good life. Are you thinking coconut drinks, Mai Tais? You know, are you thinking white sand beaches?
Yeah.
Of course, maybe at first, but like, where are we going with this? You know what I'm saying?
Well, you've already mentioned relationships, and we've talked about relationships on here, about the importance of relationships. Well, that really is the true value of somebody's testimony of their life is the relationships. And so that's why it doesn't matter what amount of money you would offer, whether it's my family, whether it's my friends. It would be hard. It would be really hard to replace the loved ones in my life. It's just not possible.
So you're saying if I offered you $1 million a year, but you could never hang out, speak to any of your friends here in Portland.
I mean, well, friends would be hard. I love my friends. I think I've got some of the best friends around, and Tim Schraders don't grow on trees.
So if I offered you $1 million a year, and said
it's a different conversation.
Podcast,
it's a different conversation.
No more podcast.
No more podcast.
$1 million a year, no more podcasts.
I tell you what, yeah. It gets a little tempting. Mm-hmm. The family would be really hard. The friends, I mean, my friends are just miraculous. I feel like I feel like a millionaire with my friends. So, there's a lot more wrapped up in the good life, though, beyond friendships, connectivity, relationships, physical and mental health at the very least, right? Ooh. Like that is.
Glad you went there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I talked to a gentleman just this week I was in the sauna at the YMCA, and I spent a lot of time there, but I only spent 12 minutes at a time. It's hot. I only spent 12 minutes at a time in there, and this gentleman was very old.
Okay.
And I have got my music in, my podcast, whatever it is to help me get through that 12 minutes because it's hard, And he was just sitting there, just stone cold, looking at the same spot in the wall. He didn't move a bit. I was a little worried about him, to be honest.
Older dude.
I hit my 12 minutes. I got out of there. He was in there before I got in. He was there when I left. I was a little worried about him. Took my shower. I got out. He was still in there.
Whoa.
I'm getting changed. He comes out. I'm like, my goodness, you might have done almost 20 minutes in there.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I don't know. I don't know how much time I did. Like, oh my gosh. As somebody who times everything, right?
Yeah. He's got dementia.
No, maybe. He had beautiful veneers. Just
all right, great smile.
Great smile.
$1 million
friendly
smile.
Guy, $1 million smile. And I said, well, what do you think about in there? Mm-hmm. You didn't have any music going.
Well,
we weren't talking.
You're like dipping into this guy's life.
I did. You know, he was old. He seemed content.
Yeah.
Might as well ask him.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about?
Yeah.
He said, man, I've just had a good life. That's what he said. This was maybe Saturday, Sunday.
What?
He said, I've just had a good life. That's what he's thinking about. Like, okay, tell me more about that. It's like, as somebody who, I think I also have a good life, but I'm getting older. That bothers me. Tell me what's the key to having a good life? He said, well, I was a plumber for 60 years.
Whoa.
So I think that's the key.
That's just what he said. He's ended it there. He was like, I've been a plumber for 60.
Pretty much. There was a little bit more beyond that, but for the most part, it's like, I've been a plumber for 60 years, which, I don't think you necessarily have to be a plumber. I mean, if so, we need to start now.
Yeah, and I wish we had that sponsorship for the Pipe Fitters Union.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like that. But really what I think he was getting at is I have found fulfillment in something that kept me busy.
Yeah.
That if you're 60 years, you start being a plumber at, 20. I mean, my gosh, were you crawling under crawl spaces at 80?
Wow.
I mean, he stayed busy. He used his hands. That's a cool thought. Yeah. It's a cool thought. It's actually reassuring to know that it can be just that simple.
Man. So you're saying like maybe we overcomplicate it.
Maybe. Yeah.
Man.
At the end of your life, if it's really as simple as having, I'm assuming, right, for this gentleman at least, but like good people in your life, good relationships, people you love, people who love you.
Yeah.
You stayed busy. He had his health, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
He stayed busy, had his health, he found purpose in the work that he was doing, he kept his hands busy. And honestly, the defining thing that he shared with me was, I had a good life.
Man.
That's pretty spectacular.
Man. Well, it brings to mind, in the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People,
okay.
There's an exercise that I go back to probably about once a year, around New Year's, so we're coming close. And the exercise is, let's say you walk into like a funeral, all right? You're walking into a funeral. And you see on the program that like there's one person that's from this guy's family that's going to speak. There's a friend that's going to speak.
Sure.
There's somebody that's from this guy's like work, career that's going to speak. And there's somebody from this guy's church or temple, something. Somebody from this guy's spiritual world is going to speak, right? And you see the casket down there. You're like, all right. So you walk up, you peer in the casket, and it's you. You're in the casket.
Oh.
And the people speaking are going to be somebody from your family, a friend of yours, somebody from your career, and somebody from your faith community, you know? Like, who are those people and what do they say, you know?
Yeah. You're asking me? You're asking me?
Nobody else in here.
Oh my gosh, me? Mm-hmm. Wow. Boy, I'll tell you, being your co-host is a roller coaster sometimes. I didn't know I'd be in the casket. That's the problem. What would they say? I do think that they would say that I was happy, that I was joyful.
You know
well, the people speaking, yeah. Oh, who is they?
Who's the person from your family?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it could be one of two people right now. Sweet Eleanor is gonna be born soon, so maybe we'll add her to the mix. But yeah, somebody from my close family. You know,
Katie.
Yeah.
Let's put it there.
Yeah.
4-year-old, probably not giving that speech, but.
Yeah. Oh my God. I hope am I gonna die tomorrow? I mean, what's going on here? I wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's 100 years from now.
Oh, 100 years.
And Amelia's 104 years old, but.
Okay. I love that.
It's a good point. Maybe it's 60 years from now. Amelia's 64.
Yeah. All right. I think she's gonna open up my cryogenic chamber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's gonna say.
She's like, we got Dad's brain.
That's right.
Frozen. Do I have any volunteers?
What would they say? You know, I think that I would hope that they would say that I didn't take life too seriously.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
That's what they being like Katie and Amelia. You only get one person from your family.
Yeah, okay. I pick Katie.
Okay, Katie.
She's known me the longest.
Okay. Didn't take life too seriously.
Yeah.
What about somebody in kind of like making the world better career world? Like, who would you choose from, like a coworker, or maybe somebody who's doing something similar that you met and you've developed a relationship with, as far as like,
sure.
What do I do when blah 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 happens? You know, who would that be?
You know, it's. I mean, that is a good point. Is like one of the things that I think makes you experience the good life is like knowing that you have some sort of legacy, right?
Yeah.
So if you try to leave the world a better place, hopefully, like your coworkers could speak to that. You know, that's why you showed up every day.
Let's give them a shout out. Who's the coworker?
Oh my gosh!
That you're like, man, I hope that Kurt. I hope that Kurt gets up at my funeral and says, you know, who are you thinking?
Yeah. All right. Wow. Let's go with. I'll go with somebody who's known me the longest at work.
Yeah.
Right. In that, so I'll go with somebody. Amber.
Amber
Burns
Amber.
Jones. She left the department probably a month or two ago.
Okay.
But she's been there the longest, and she has a really good sense of just kind of what's important.
Yeah.
The way people. You know, she's just very in tune with the way people carry themselves and the way they talk about things and talk about other people. And so her opinion on whether or not somebody left a mark on the world would be really important.
Ooh. What would you hope that Amber would say?
Well, I'd hope that Amber said that I came to work because I did want to make the world a better place, because I cared about people's health and how long they lived their lives and the opportunities that people had.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not living for that, you know, and you're kind of taking more than you're given.
I love it.
All right, your turn.
Man, love that. All right, family-wise, probably going to be Evan. Listen, that guy's been the spokesperson. Listen.
Yeah.
Evan's going to get up. He's going to say some beautiful words. I hope so. About me.
I can see that.
I always say, like, put on my tombstone, he tried. You know what? Evan's going to be like, he tried. You know what I'm saying? Quietly, when the family retreats and have their moment, Jonah's going to bring up a memory that nobody remembers.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean that happened?
Yep. Have you tried these chocolates harvested by a young boy?
Dung boy? I thought you said dung boy.
A young boy. It's unbelievable.
Whoa!
Those are really good.
In
the Swiss Alps. From a young boy. Sorry, go on. Your funeral.
Man, he knows what he's doing. Yep. So let's say it's Evan, and then let's say from work, gosh, right now I'm working with my buddy John. John said just the most amazing thing the other day. I said something silly, whatever. Just like, hey, when I touch something, I like to make it better,
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he was like, bro, you do like to make it better. And it was like, whoa, like, man, thanks for speaking life into me, Like, I thought I was just saying, like, yeah, but he made me feel really special about that. So hopefully it gets up and says that I was in the business of making things better.
Yeah. Well, way to go, John, first of all. On just like
John Maynard.
Yeah, speaking life.
One of our avid listeners.
Yeah, is he a loyal listener?
He's a loyal listener.
John Maynard, we thank you. Thanks for tuning in every week. Tell a friend. Tell a friend and keep making the world a better place, John.
Man, we haven't even told a friend. So, John, let us tell friends before you don't have to.
It would really help.
But yeah, so it was just nice. I would like to think that, and it's wild. Every year when I do this, about every 3 to 4 years, the cast changes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like somebody in the career, the profession that I've chosen, every 3 to 4 years kind of changes because I've moved to a new city. I've started a new career. Faith community changes,
Yeah.
So it does change every year, that kind of thing. But it is wonderful. I really value the experience to say, like, in the book, they talk about, like, sometimes you're really good at, like, cutting through the jungle. Life gives you this wilderness. And you're like, this is the direction. I just am cutting through it. And maybe you're, like, the best at cutting through the wilderness. You know what I'm saying? But if you never stop and climb up a tree to say, like, guys, we're going the wrong direction. And the guy's like, but I'm making really good time. You're like, I don't care. If you don't stop to say, like, let's keep the end in mind of, like, at the end, what is the good life? What do we hope to have marked? Because the good life isn't just about consuming, right? Mm-hmm. That's the whole idea is, like, this life isn't just about what can I consume despite what the environment is that we're in. We have to think like, well, what are the things that make it the good life, So.
And what are those?
Man, great question. I think about it in that categories of like, gosh, well, I would like to think that, let's say I'm on a quest of spirituality and I'm getting farther on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say maturing as if like you're like a kid and then you're not, because honestly, sometimes I'm like, man, I want to be more childlike in my faith. So it's not like, oh, I want to mature. It's like, how can I be childlike, which is different than childish. But I want to be childlike in my faith. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's one category I've thought about. Another one is, let's say professionally, like I want to have a job that's not just pays the bills, but also is cool. You know what I'm saying? Like I want a job that's cool. Like I like going to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of childlike, you want a job that's cool? Are we talking like monster truck driver? What's the
man? That would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Are they hiring?
Yeah. Just put yourself out there. Monster Jam.
Like if I said, hey, I'm going to pay you $1 million a year, but you will hate every day you go to work. That would be one thing, right? You'd be like, I don't think that's a good deal. You know what I'm saying? Okay. But maybe you could be like, hey, well, I'll stack up these bills for 5 years.
Sure. You might be able to compartmentalize that and still have a good life. You might be able to. It would be hard.
It would be challenging.
Yeah.
Another one of the great sayings that they say is like, let's say that I gave you $1 million a year, and I said, hey, you have to work, but you can do anything you want. Anything you want. But I'll pay you $1 million a year. Let's take money out of the equation.
I could feed ducks all day.
If that's what you really wanted to do.
Then I get paid $1 million.
But you got to do 40 hours a week of feeding ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you do?
I could feed ducks. I understand.
That's a good point.
I feel like that. I feel like that's the right. That's where my instinct goes.
Where are these ducks?
They're just ponds. All the ponds. I would make sure all the ducks are fed at all the ponds.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
What I don't is there what's
Why
the right
ducks?
answer?
Why aren't you thinking llamas? Why aren't you thinking like sheep?
I don't know. I just feel like
Ducks?
well, you're not really supposed to feed them.
Which ones?
The ducks at the ponds.
So you want to choose
So maybe I shouldn't do. So yeah, I would ask if somebody offered this to me. I would just ask to take a moment.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I would be a water slide tester.
Bro, I love that.
I would tour across the country, maybe across the world.
That could be life-threatening, though, if you're the tester. Are you okay with that? Could be like, this slide is so fast, we've never put a live human down. You could literally fly off this thing and die. You still in?
I am. I am.
Right, well, if you're
I either want to feed the ducks or be a water slide tester.
If you're out there and you have a duck problem
Yeah.
that you're looking to cultivate,
Yeah.
and you have water slides that need tested,
Either or.
this is the man for you.
Yeah. No, really ideal would be doing half and half there, but either or.
Yeah. Well, what about you? So I put it in those categories. Professional, I want a job that's cool. Water slide tester is probably the coolest. Spiritual, I want to be on my quest, my spiritual quest. Family, I want to be growing in memories.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, man?
The type of job is less important.
Yeah.
But it does feed into the idea of fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
But you can be fulfilled, working as a plumber for 60 years, and I mean, obviously that is a worthwhile career.
Yeah.
But you can be fulfilled in anything. I mean, probably.
You think anything?
As long as you're you can't be fulfilled being a executioner or you know what I mean. There's certain things.
I don't know. We talked to Ryan. Stess.
Okay.
Shout out to Ryan.
Ryan says value.
He worked at the Swifty pork plant.
He was not fulfilled.
Bro, he loved it.
What?
He said we used everything from the snooter to the tooter, bro. He said he loved working with livestock.
He did execute pigs.
Yes!
Oh, no, I can't. He has nightmares about that job.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does. He had to execute the runts.
He loved it.
No.
He said he picked them up with a skid steer, threw them down, they're shaking, and he knocked them.
He had a bad day when you talk to him. I can't confirm that he has nightmares and hated the job, but I'm worried about my friendship with him.
You talked to him. He was proud of it. And I was like, man, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. Maybe you're like, hey, let's knock him, let's get this bacon out.
Yeah. So I say that to say this. If I was bold enough to quit my job and get a job at Circle K,
okay,
and know that I was touching 1,000 people every day, that's high, but enough people every day in my neighborhood, in a way that mattered through short connections, right?
Yeah.
That might be worthwhile. Now, making a lot of money is usually where this conversation goes, but I think it's less about making a lot of money, more about having the freedom to do the things that really matter, right? Like whether it be, spending time with family and other things. And included in that is leisure, right? Because leisure is important. Yeah. It's important towards physical and mental health, which we've already talked about is really important. Yeah, so
I love it.
Freedom allows you to have all those things. On good weeks, sometimes I do feel like a millionaire. I really do. And that being like, I can do all the things that I want to do. I can get all the things that I want to get. Yeah, I live in a very humble home that is not big, but everybody has their own room.
It's not that humble. I helped you put down that
baseboard.
We
did all right. We did all right. There's some lengthy baseboards in there, so it does all right. But it is a humble home. Everybody has their own room, but there's not a whole lot of room. I drive a 2007 RAV4,
Bro, but it's a RAV4.
It's a RAV4.
Come on, bro.
My God, exactly. That's my point exactly. So, maybe we live below our means in some ways, but we make space for the things that we care about. We want to be able to travel.
Yeah.
We want to, we travel once a year, and that's what we're able to do We travel somewhere awesome, though. We try to go to a different continent, We'd only get to do it once a year.
Morocco.
That's enough,
Yeah.
So,
So I hear you painting the picture of the good life. The good life
Sure.
is freedom, is what it ultimately comes down to, is what it feels like, right?
Sure.
So freedom of time,
Yeah.
freedom of resources that you could go places, travel abroad, even if it's like once a year, at least you're getting out once a year.
Yeah.
Is that what you're kind of saying? Freedom to touch the people's lives around us, be part of our community.
Contentment. Finding the spot. There's a balance. There's somewhere on a Venn diagram that I've never found where all those things overlap, and freedom and connection overlap, and it really is just being able to be content with what you have. There's also an element of personal growth.
Whoa.
I think personal growth is probably paramount when you look back in retrospect to who you were, who you've become. You've got to be able to show growth to feel accomplished and fulfilled, probably. I'm guessing. I'm not 86 yet. I'm not sitting in the sauna staring at the wall. But I imagine that that's important. Whether it's...
Stay tuned for our sauna episode. It will happen.
It will happen. We don't know where we're gonna pin these to. Our towels? Do we...
Maybe we just hold them.
Down? Oh yeah, that could work.
We're here in the sauna and we're talking.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I'd say it won't faze the guy that I've been sitting next to in the sauna. So
that old dude?
We're good. That old dude's good. But an interview with him might be nice.
Ooh, interesting.
Whoever walks in, they get an interview?
Yeah.
I love that.
it.
All right.
Love it.
Yo, let's make that happen. Sooner than later.
Well, personal growth also sounds like a challenging, stretching, are these parts of the good life?
They are. Mm-hmm. Tell me, Tim.
Yeah.
Because I've heard you talk about your time in New York.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like the most glorious time. It sounds incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I get the picture that maybe it didn't feel incredible at the moment. I mean, walk me through trying to park in New York. Walk me through in your studio apartment, having a newborn, all that. Do you look back and say, thank God for our time in New York?
I just took a big bite of your good life platter here.
King's Hawaiian roll.
I'm having the King's Hawaiian roll with the truffle cheese.
Have you ventured over to the Timeless?
Wagyu.
Have you taken a swim in the Mediterranean? Ancient Greece?
I did earlier, and it was delicious. Machine? That is really good. Yeah, I would not, at any stretch of the imagination, call New York the good life. However, it would be definitely part of my growth. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
When LA too, when you got a kid, maybe even two kids, you got to put some groceries back. You know what I'm saying? Because you ain't got the money for all them groceries.
Yeah.
Gingerbread houses.
These are real sacrifices.
I would not call that the good life. However, the story doesn't end there. It's not like we died in the grocery store. So yeah, it was very valuable. It was stuff that magic. But it's not anything that you could have here. Couldn't have had it here.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Great story is that I wanted to call Stephanie on a payphone. You know what I'm saying? A New York payphone.
Come on.
Man.
It's the dream.
Put my quarter in, got her voicemail, chatted her up on the voicemail on the payphone. She played it for me when I got home, and the speaker was broken. And it was like, and she was like, I was so worried for you. I was so worried. I got a weird number, and I heard your voice, and it was so bad. It was like, Times Square. And I was like, I was just trying to call you from a payphone. Which is a good example of there's the magic of the moment and the reality that it is distorted. for other people, you know? So yeah, I'll put it there.
All right, so you wouldn't take it all back?
I definitely wouldn't take it all back. No.
That's right. How do you feel about resilience?
Yeah, resilience is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it part of the legacy? Is it part of living the good life?
I think so. I think resiliency is, yeah. Somebody I was going through a digital class on was saying it's not a matter of lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness, you know? Okay. I was like, whoa.
That's good.
Yeah, let's get busy.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, what if we already have everything we need for the good life? We already have it.
Yeah.
I bought an old home, as you know.
Yeah.
And I had great aspirations for this home at one point, and then I put those, tabled those.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Beautiful home. Thank you so much. Beautiful home. However, not nearly what I imagined as far as like potential realized, right? But I started thinking like, what if everything I need is already here?
Yeah.
You know, like in that weird little dark closet in the basement, you know, or in that weird little crawl space. And you know what? I found it like 9 out of 10. If I'm like, man, I wish I had blah, blah, blah to help to fix this house.
Yeah.
It's somewhere in the basement. And we bought it from friends who had friends renting it. So they left a bunch of stuff that just came with the house.
Yeah.
And yeah, 9 times out of 10, what I need is already down there in the basement. I just have to go look for it.
You don't even know the things that are down there.
Yes, literally, I don't even know the things.
It's a weird basement. I wouldn't go down there by myself.
Yeah?
No.
You and Jonah would not go down there by yourselves.
No.
Y'all could go together.
I maybe need a third.
It does look kind of like a kill room. Never been used for that as far as I know, though there are drains in the floor. But yeah, so it's like kind of like, what if everything you already need is already there? You just need to look for it, you know? It's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness.
Yeah.
To have that good life.
Sure.
Because awesome. You know, my dad, bless his heart, he just keeps coming up, but he was just saying like, you know what, like listen, there's choices I could have made. I could have gone harder for the career. I could have gone harder for the blah, blah, blah. He's like, you know, but I look at other dentists, because he was a dentist. I look at other dentists who are much more successful than me.
Yeah.
And they're on the other side of a divorce.
Sure.
How expensive, Tim, is a divorce? They're on the other side of some real sacrifices they made.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I think I'm doing okay, you know?
Yeah.
He's just tapping into that good life, you know?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and I hope that people who live their life that way, I do think, maybe it's 9 times out of 10, whatever, that they do come to that realization and that belief.
Like the plumber guy.
Yeah.
He's like, listen, I was a pipe fitter, plumber. I was doing the thing.
Yeah. I didn't get the impression he would have changed a thing. Man. And it's not the first time I've asked somebody, like, you know, in a similar situation, that question. Yeah. And I do think most people in their old age come around to the belief about what's really important, and it's certainly not the comfort and the things that you described on the front end of this episode.
Yeah. Well, how do we find that good life, do you think, in a world that is saturated, by advertisements every second of the day? Mm-hmm. And when I tell you that I was talking to a client, and I asked them, because I do advertising, I asked them, like, do you know where people come before they go to your store, you know? Your experience. It was an experience. Yeah. And they were like, well, we can. And most of them come from home. Like, literally, our phones track us in a way that an advertiser who pays a certain amount can find out, like, were they coming from a restaurant? Were they coming from their homes? Were they coming from wherever? Wow. You know? Which is to say, this person is thinking of it as, how do we fit into an experience? So we're trying not to give away who this business is, but and let's just say that we use Google Maps. I use Google Maps all the time, and Google Maps is, you know, it's a for business company, and they're happy to sell the geo-tracking information that comes from our phones, because we said, oh, this is home. Whenever I type home into Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever, I want to go home. So now it knows, oh, that's home. So when you go to, let's say, Toys R Us, this was in that company, they're like, oh, well, you're going straight from home to Toys R Us. You're going, when you go, so how do we, in a world that's so equipped to be like, hey, listen, you need more, you need this. Or in a world that's like, I think back to, gosh, our parents, I don't know about your parents, I'm betting ours are about the same age, roughly. Gosh, I mean, like, you paid $20 for your landline, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And if you splurged, you got the answer machine.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was I like to think of it as a simpler time. I think the overhead of living life was smaller. You didn't have to pay a Wi-Fi bill.
Yeah.
Did you have cable? Maybe.
Yep.
You didn't have to. I have to have Wi-Fi. I can't imagine productivity, emails, TV without Wi-Fi. Yep. So let's just say that I feel like the world has found a way to squeeze a nickel out of us better than ever.
Yep.
And a lot of that has to do with discontentment. How do we stay focused? How do we stay true in this kind of crazy time? And I'm counting on you for all the answers, Joe.
All the answers. Spend the money. Save the money. It's nothing but a little money.
Well, I mean, Biggie says more money, more problems.
Yeah. Spend it, save it. Just have fun. Just don't take life too seriously.
Man, I love that.
You know, don't get hung up on. Now, it is a bit of a luxury to say don't get hung up on the $50 Wi-Fi, and it totally is.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, live within your means.
Yeah.
And it's not fair just to say to some people, just be content. Just whatever. It's just not fair, and I get that. But if you can get there, really hang on to it, because it is a special thing, and you can take. I think you can take small steps to find fulfillment in things, even when you don't like a job, and I don't think that's the case for either one of us, right? But I've had times where it's been more difficult, or it's been harder to find fulfillment. It's been harder to find time for physical and mental health, and you do the small things. You take the easy wins to celebrate them, and just try not to get too hung up on all the negative stuff, because it comes and goes. Look at the big picture. That's what I say. What do you think? Wrap it up. Take us home, Tim.
Don't buy a car past 08.
True that? We're both in the same boat on that one.
Man.
Both had some serious car injuries in the last very, very recent time, but they're hanging in there.
Man, they're hanging in there. Well, so good hearing your thoughts on the good life.
The good life.
Experiencing the good life here with the Dung Boy cocoa.
Drink some freshly squeezed coconut juice.
I downed it.
Hard to squeeze that, but freshly squeezed.
Well, maybe I'll leave it with this. I read this in a Brennan Manning book. So maybe you're going through a tough time. I have held this close to my heart. And we'll close with that. It's a Buddhist picture of a monk is walking through the jungle, right?
Okay.
And along the way, a tiger finds him and starts chasing him. And he's scared to death, right?
Sure.
Gets to running. Sure enough, comes to a cliff, but there's a vine. Climbs down the vine. Now up top is this tiger, ready to eat him.
Yeah. Which choice do you have?
Okay, he looks down at the bottom, jagged rocks. The vine's not long enough. If he falls, he's going to hit these jagged rocks and die.
Okay.
Meanwhile, a little carpenter ant comes out. He's like, what's this vine doing here? Just starts gnawing this little vine away.
An ant?
A little ant. Something like that. I can't remember the story.
Do the trick, or?
So he looks above him. There's this tiger ready to eat him.
All right.
He looks below him. Here's these rocks. He's just a couple minutes away from crushing himself on his way.
A couple days.
He looks at...
Talking about an ant?
Well, whatever this thing is.
It's not an ant. It's something else. But yeah, all right.
It's a vine beetle, and they eat vines. Starts gnawing this thing away, right?
Is this the young boy in the Alps?
Anyways, he looks ahead of him.
Yeah.
In the cracks of this rocks is a wild strawberry.
Ooh.
And he plucks the wild strawberry, eats it, and says, isn't that delicious? You know? What more is there to say?
What more is there to say?
You know.
Death is imminent. But eat the strawberry.
Enjoy. That's it. So.
All right.
Tune in next week.
You got it. See you next week.